Welcome to Notre Dame Stadium, where tonight the 8th-ranked Fighting Irish will host number 16 Texas A&M. I'm Tim O'Malley, joined today by Tim Prister of Irish Illustrated, John Brice of FootballScoop, and as always, this pregame Irish Illustrated instant analysis is brought to you by the RV Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame and Northern Indiana Event Center in Elkhart, Indiana. And guys, we have podcasted, previewed, hit the airwaves, opined 10 straight days of this. I think we could agree that of all the points we have, if Notre Dame's offensive line does not better meet the challenge that it failed to do in the opener, that the Irish could fall to 0-2 tonight.
No doubt about it. And thank God we don't have 2 weeks between every game because it'd drive us crazy. But, yeah, I mean, that's where Notre Dame has an opportunity. We've talked about Texas A&M and the players they have up front on their defensive line, and there's some highly recruited guys that Notre Dame recruited. But this is an opportunity before those guys grow into the Shamars and Nick Scorton like they did, the last couple years at A&M. This is an opportunity for Notre Dame's offensive line. They obviously have to be extremely motivated after their performance from a couple of weeks ago. Gerby Lambert will be settled in a little bit more, starting his second game. This is an opportunity for Notre Dame to run the football. And how many touches do you think Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price get?
I hope both of them. That's the key for me, JB, is I want Jadarian Price to be involved in this too, because when Notre Dame loses, Jadarian Price has 3 carries, 4 carries, 6 carries. You got to get the guy 10, 11 shots at the ball.
Yeah, Jadarian Price needs the ball in his hands, and you probably want to see Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price combine for 28 or 30 touches over the balance of the game. I think that's a winning recipe for Notre Dame. I think that takes a lot of pressure off of C.J. Carr, and I think the offensive line will do its best to help take pressure off C.J. Carr. I think the buzzwords floating around the Goog this week and really for the past 13 days once Notre Dame returned from Miami, 2 things: velocity and violence. And that's what you're going to hear, or that's what the players have heard for 2 weeks now. That's what I think that they will show tonight, particularly the violence. Notre Dame wants to come out and reestablish itself as not just the more physical team tonight, one of the more physical teams in all of college football.
Tim, they're going to have to be the more physical team because you mentioned talented 5 stars in recruiting. Well, A&M has added some at wide receiver and also in the transfer portal at wide receiver. There is a quartet of quick guys on that side of the ball that just did not exist last year when Notre Dame handled A&M's offense.
I mean, there's speed at wide receiver, and there's definitely speed at quarterback too. So this is going to be a great challenge. I think I'm going to veer off a little bit from that, Tim, because I feel like I've kind of ignored, Moss and Owens through the course of the week.
A&M kind of has too.
Well, they have, and we talked about this. I think part of it is they just want to make sure that they're healthy. Yeah. They'll probably carry the football a lot more than they have tonight. They'll carry it a lot more than they did the first couple weeks of the season. But one thing about that A&M offense, I mean, it's grip it and rip it with Marcel Reed at quarterback. Snap them the football. Everything moves quickly, and that includes their running back. So I think we're going to see them touch the football a lot more tonight, and that, Notre Dame's interior defensive line as a whole, linebackers, all have to play better than they did 2 weeks ago.
TJP mentioned Marcel Reed, and of course, Notre Dame's got to collapse the pocket more than it did against Carson Beck, who was actually just discerning with his ability to figure out where the blitz and where the 4-man pressure was coming from. But it's collapse and contain, because containing Marcel Reed is just as important.
And when you look at Marcel Reed, yes, he's retooled his throwing motion, but he's not faced a tremendous amount of pressure the first couple of games. However, when you look at what he did last year on the road, and yes, it was his first year as a starter, his numbers were vastly different. He took way more sacks. I want to say he took 10 sacks in his final 4 road starts before the bowl game, and he also had far more interceptions on the road than he did at home. So that's certainly on Notre Dame's mind. And as you alluded to, TP, they want to not only establish the run tonight. We talked about what Notre Dame needs to do to help out C.J. Carr. Texas A&M has to do the same to help out Marcel Reed, because Notre Dame wants to try and make Marcel Reed have to beat it throwing the football, and Notre Dame believes if they do that, they'll turn him over.
Priester, just briefly stay with the defense, because you and I were inside. Drake Bowen's not going to be tentative again. Adon Schuler's not going to be tentative again. I think Notre Dame can get there with 4, but at some point, if they're not getting there with 4, they're going to have to get there with 5 and 6. And this is a situation where a guy like Brice Young has to emulate how well Boubacar Traore played and how much he competed in the opener, because Brice Young, Josh Burnham, those guys have to make it so Chris Ash does not have to send 5 and 6 all the time.
Yeah, well, but they do have a 5 and 6 in KVA and Jalen Sneed. So if we don't see a different Notre Dame team tonight, then there's a leadership problem. Sure. There's whatever you want to put your finger on. There's some issues with this team. I think they're going to respond. It's a Marcus Freeman coach team. That wasn't what we saw last year. That wasn't a fluke. More likely of a fluke was what we saw 2 weeks ago. Now again, new leadership, who's in charge, who's making sure that everybody's where they need to be. Still looking for those people.
Now we're going to get to special teams in the Irish secondary at some point here, JB, but offensively, Jaden Greathouse he's not going to be on the schneid again, I don't think, after week 2. But Jordan Faison, those short passes work for Faison. I just feel that, as Prister's pointed out a few times, you got to find Malachi Fields downfield. You have to find Will Pollock and Jaden Greathouse in the seams in the mid-range. The passing game has to augment 28 touches, as you mentioned, from the backs.
Yeah, they've got to throw more 50-50 balls.
Yeah.
And
Nick Saban said that today. Nick Saban mentioned they have to attack.
Yeah, they absolutely have to attack. Again, I think that's been a point of emphasis for Notre Dame, both from a mindset standpoint and from an approach on the field for tonight's game standpoint as they've prepared for this contest. But they've got to let Malachi Fields go up and make some plays. And A&M returns a lot of experience in its secondary, but they don't have anybody 6'4", 230 who looks like he's a sculpted statue the way Malachi Fields. And Malachi Fields had to earn some trust by the way he bounced back from that early fumble, and he made that sensational catch on really about the only 50-50 ball we saw at Miami.
Priester, I want you to warn the viewers that it's not only Marty Biaggi you have to watch out for, because you scouted the A&M special teams, and Notre Dame. We've come to expect something special from Notre Dame. It's containing something special from A&M as well.
Yeah, 2 of those speedy receivers. Bussey is the kick return guy, and Concepcion is the punt return guy. He had an 80-yarder. Concepcion did early in the first game of the season. Marty Biaggi has his hands full. It's going to be a really good matchup. One thing I want to mention, Tim, I don't know that we've emphasized this enough. A&M's been terrible on the road. I mean, they have not been good on the road.
We have not emphasized that enough.
No,
I
I realize a lot of that was at the end of the Jimbo Fisher era, but they have not been effective on the road. This needs to be a very dangerous place for A&M walking into it tonight. I'm hopeful that it will be.
Final thoughts, I think Notre Dame's secondary will rise to the occasion more. Look, Leonard Moore was beaten on a double move, and Don Schuler got out of the way of a touchdown on the same play that ended a half. Right. That is just so uncharacteristic of a Mike Mickens coach defense and a Chris Ash coach defense. I think the Irish, they might have a bigger challenge across the board on the secondary, but they're going to respond, I think, after a poor week. After a poor week when, competitively speaking, Malachi Toney got the best of them. That you can't have that. C.J. Daniels got the best of them.
No, and look, it was as simple. You could sense it when we visited with Mike Mickens on Tuesday night, and he was asked about not specifically a Don Schuler, but basically playing the ball instead of letting the ball play you. And he just said, we know what's going to happen the next time that situation arrives. We know what's going to happen. Notre Dame has its confidence back, I believe. Notre Dame certainly has a mindset to come in and play aggressively. And again, those 2 magic words, violence and velocity.
That's it for us pregame. The tailgate lots are full. This should be an electric atmosphere at Notre Dame Stadium tonight. For John Brice of Football Scoop, Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated, I'm Tim O'Malley. Thanks for watching Irish Illustrated Instant Analysis, brought to you by the RV Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame and Northern Indiana Event Center in Elkhart, Indiana.